Imagine being hired to protect a rich family's child, only to discover that the child has been kidnapped and is at the center of a deadly biological attack. Now imagine the only person standing between the criminals and disaster is a man who follows 3 simple rules: never change the deal, never ask questions, and never break his word. This is the story of Frank Martin in The Transporter 2. Introduction, released in 2005, The Transporter 2 is an action thriller directed by Louis Leterrier and written by Luc Besson and Robert Marc Kamen. Jason Statham returns as Frank Martin, the highly skilled driver who can turn almost any vehicle into a weapon and escape situations that would leave ordinary people with no chance. This time, Frank has moved to Miami, where he takes a seemingly simple job, driving and protecting a young boy named Jack Billings. But the job quickly becomes much more dangerous than he expected. The story begins. Frank Martin is living a relatively quiet life in Miami. He's still a professional driver, but this time his assignment is very different. He becomes the personal driver for Jack Billings, the young son of wealthy parents Jefferson and Audrey Billings. At first, Frank treats the job professionally. He drives Jack to school, protects him, and makes sure the boy gets home safely. Despite Frank's serious personality, he gradually develops a bond with Jack. But everything changes when Jack is kidnapped. Frank realizes that the kidnapping wasn't simply about money. The criminals are involved in a much bigger operation. The kidnapping. The kidnappers have carefully planned their attack. They take Jack and use him as part of a dangerous scheme involving a deadly virus. Frank immediately goes after the people responsible, and this is where the movie really becomes a non-stop action ride. Frank doesn't waste time. He gets behind the wheel and begins hunting down the criminals. Cars crash, weapons are fired, people are thrown through windows, and Frank continues moving forward as if nothing can stop him. One of the things that makes Frank so dangerous is that he doesn't rely only on weapons. His greatest weapons are his driving skills, intelligence, and ability to remain calm under pressure. Frank fights back. As Frank gets closer to Jack, he discovers that the kidnapping is connected to a much larger plan. The criminals want to spread a deadly virus and use the situation to achieve their own goals. Frank now has 2 problems. He needs to save Jack, but he also needs to stop the virus from reaching its intended targets. And Frank isn't the type of man who walks away from a difficult job. Even when he's heavily outnumbered, he keeps fighting. He takes on armed men, escapes dangerous traps, and turns ordinary objects into weapons. His fighting style is fast and brutal, but there's also something almost effortless about the way he moves. The villains. The main threat comes from a group of criminals led by Gianni Cellini, played by Alessandro Gasman. Another dangerous character is Lola, played by Kate Nauta. Lola is unpredictable and extremely violent, making her one of the more memorable opponents Frank faces. While the villains believe they have everything under control, they make one major mistake. They underestimate Frank Martin. They think taking Jack means they can control Frank. Instead, they've given Frank a reason to come after them.